WXII 12. This is WXII 12 News at 11.
The United States Treasury Secretary and congressional leaders are working on a plan right now to bail out banks causing Wall Street's worst crisis in decades. Tracy Potts begins tonight's team coverage with an eye on the market.
After putting out fires all week on Wall Street, the Bush administration's finance team, Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson, Federal Reserve Chair Ben Bernanke, and others sat down Thursday night to explain their actions to Congress.
We're here to work together.
Afterward, the administration and Congress pledged to come up with a plan to protect Main Street from Wall Street.
What we are working on now is an approach to deal with the systemic risk and the stresses in our capital markets.
We hope to move very quickly. Time is of the essence.
Even Republicans are outraged, saying government bailouts aren't fair to taxpayers.
Who bails out the taxpayer? There's simply nobody left on the hook.
Democrats begin hearings next week to look into whether the Bush administration's lack of oversight may have led to those failures.
When you take the referee off the field, chaos results.
President Bush canceled travel and fundraisers today to keep an eye on the markets, meet with financial advisors, and reassure Americans.
The American people can be sure we will continue to act to strengthen and stabilize our financial markets.
John McCain said today Chris Cox, head of the Securities and Exchange Commission that oversees Wall Street, should go.
The chairman of the SEC serves at the appointment of the president and, in my view, has betrayed the public trust. If I were president today, I would fire him.
You can fire the whole trickle-down, on your own, look the other way crowd in Washington who has led us down this disastrous path. Don't just get rid of one guy, get rid of this administration.
In a statement, Cox called it a political jab and said the only way to deal with it is, quote, simply to put your head down and not lose a step doing the best job you can possibly do, end quote.
Where I've seen from.
But Congress has more pressing issues right now, like finalizing a flurry of spending bills before their scheduled break in less than 2 weeks. Tracy Potts, NBC News, Washington. Well, this comes following reports of a possible merger between Morgan Stanley and Charlotte-based Wachovia Bank. We talked to a financial analyst about what this means for local employees and investors.
Certainly, anytime you have a merger of this magnitude, you have the possibility of some jobs being eliminated because there would be some overlap, although it wouldn't be quite as much as if two investment banks got together or if two commercial banks got together.
If you have funds, if you're investing at this point, should you really be concerned? How do you sum it up?
Well, here's the way I would look at it, Jamont. You have to determine if you are an investor or a trader. If you are an investor, you are in for the long term, and you'll continue to invest over a long period of time, and you're really looking to see a return over a long period of time.
No one from Wachovia or Morgan Stanley has commented on the possible merger. Well, there are always winners and losers during hard economic times, and Jamont Terry tells us if you're in the market for a new car, you're probably going to fall into one of those categories. Jamont?
Well, Wanda, the average person, when they walk onto a car lot, they will likely need some type of financing if they're looking to buy new or used. But we're finding that approval for that loan is getting much tougher.
With the Dow closing Thursday, the bell on Wall Street rings loudly across the triad, considering the fact banks across the country are facing issues with loan repayments. The trickle-down effect could play a major factor for anyone looking to buy or lease a new or used car.
We're seeing some of the worst credit scores that we have ever seen.
Tracy Myers with Frank Myers Auto Group, a pre-owned dealer, says the credit crisis is to blame for some car dealers' struggling times.
We've seen 4 and 5 dealers go out of business in the last month.
And they're going out of business, why?
Because they can't obtain financing for their customer base, because banks and finance companies have really cut back their advances and who they're financing so much.
Myers says they experienced a similar credit crunch back in 2000, but today they're in a different situation.
If we didn't have our own finance company, business would probably be off somewhere between 55 to 60%.
With incentives like 0% financing, $2,000 rebates, dealerships are doing what they can to get customers inside their doors.
That's the situation over at North Point Chrysler Jeep, a new car dealer.
It is decreased a little bit, but it's holding steady. It's holding on its own.
Sales managers say last month sales were actually up, but with Wall Street jumping all over the place, their financing companies have tightened the qualification.
You do find the credit's a little bit tighter than it's been in the past. They are more looking for good credit, not as much advance as they were willing to do in the past.
So if you are one of the few Americans with no financial concerns, car dealers say, is this a good time to buy a car and why?
It is the best time that I've ever seen.
And you also have to consider this time of year, many dealers are trying to get rid of the 08 models so they can make room for the 09 models. Interesting enough, one of the car owners we talked to said people are coming in with so bad of credit, their scores are in the 300 range, and actually they have good paying jobs. So Wanda, that gives an indication just how bad and tough times really are. Reporting live tonight, back to you.
All right, Javon Terry, thanks a lot.